Hey guys, David here, Citric Cow Piper, and I wanted to come to you today. A couple weeks ago I bought this noodle press, and I decided to embark on the journey of pressing tobacco. So I'm going to go ahead and uncap this. Now what I have in here, I have some velvet and some aged black Maduro by Suffolk. So I'm going to try this out. I threw that in there because I wasn't sure what else to use. So I thought, well, I just needed to get something in there. I wasn't sure about which blend to use, so I thought I would try this. Let me see. I'm sure if it's, let me check on something. Yes, it's velvet and aged black Maduro. Velvet isn't one of my favorites, so I like it fine, but it's not one of my favorites. So I thought I'll just put it in there with some aged black Maduro. So let's see what happens here if I can get the thing open. Maybe easier said than done because it back up the pressure a little bit here, maybe. Let's see if that helps me. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, so let's see if anything. I've got some aluminum foil on the bottom of it. And let's see what I have here. So far, so good. Wow. I should have probably used some, smells good. Probably should have used something on the opposite side. It's gonna stick. I didn't think about that. Oops, there you go. All right, not too bad. So got a little puck there. Little puck there of tobacco. All right, I'm gonna break this up and I'll be right back. All right, so this is what it looks like once I took it out of the press. Really dark stuff, very moist. So I'm gonna pack my pipe up and I will be right back. All right guys, I'm back. So I've got my California meerschaum here, full of my velvet and black Maduro. Let's light it up, set it on fire, as Paul would say. So far, so good. I like it. Now I have to think what else to put on, what to put in next in the noodle press. Anyway, thought I'd do a quick VR to Night Train Piper. He was talking about his first job today. I saw one of the videos earlier today, so I thought I'd talk about my first job. And I've talked about this before, so I apologize if this is repeated information, but I want to do a VR to Scott. And my first job, well, I did mowed lawns for a long time as a kid, on and off. Then I got the real job, which again, like Scott, was a paper route. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that, the differences between maybe his route and my route back in the day. All right, well, I got my paper out when I was 11 years old. Started on January the 1st, 1975. I remember that day so well because it being New Year's Day, my newspaper route was based out of my grandparents' house. A little part of Bakersfield called Oildale. It's like an unincorporated area that's been around for about 150 years now, I would imagine. And as the name implies, it was founded as a place where oil field workers could live as they worked in the nearby oil fields. So, um, anyway, not to get into the history of all that, but my grandparents' house was in Oildale, so my newspaper route started off there. I just remember on January the 1st, we were having a family dinner, a New Year's dinner, which didn't happen often, but this particular year it did. So I had uncles and aunts and all. So in those days, the Bakersfield Californian, which is the newspaper that I delivered, that was an afternoon delivery except for Sunday. Sunday was a morning delivery. And as Scott mentioned in his video, the papers were massive. Inserts were sometimes bigger than the actual paper, and you had to fold them together. Well, on New Year's Day, the papers were also massive, I guess because of the new year. They must have had a lot of circulars or inserts in them. But they dropped them off my grandparents' front porch in a big bundle tied with plastic bands. And so we drug them in and got those going. Rolled those papers or folded them. Put rubber bands around them. And I had uncles, and it was like a family event at that point, Got a lot of help folding the papers, but they were so massive that the newspaper bag, the wrap bag that I had, it was the same type that you'd imagine. It had space in the front and the back, and you put it over your head, and you got rid of the papers. One side would get lopsided, you had to twist it or swirl it around your shoulders, giving you a neck burn and all that. But anyway, so that was the first experience with that. So I remember walking the neighborhood. The papers were so big that I could only put about 10 on each side at that point. So I'd walk 10, houses down, or 20 houses down, or whatever, deliver the papers, go back and get more. So I made it through that first day. Survived it. I had that route for 5 years. Actually, until I was in high school. So I was 11 when I started, so I must have been 16, probably almost 17 when I stopped. And that's kind of old for a paper route, but in those days it was not bad money. I started off by making about $50 a month. And by the time I was done, I made over $100 a month, which was really good money in those days. So, but like I said, it was an afternoon delivery, afternoon route. So the route manager would drop the papers off every day. You'd wait for those. It was really good because in school, I get home from school around 3:30 or so. The papers were already waiting for me. I'd fold them, and I eventually saved up and got a bike, like an old style cruiser type thing. It was a Schwinn, red. And I rode that thing day in, day out for 5 years and delivered those newspapers. Unlike Scott's video, he mentioned that he could not ride a bike on his. Thankfully, the Bakersfield Californian had no restrictions like that. They did have the time restrictions. I mean, you had to get the newspapers out by a certain time, but in the afternoon, it wasn't a problem. Sunday mornings, though, you had to get up early and do that. That was always a pain. I didn't enjoy that part because, well, you had to get up really early. And Sundays were tough, too, because my family went to church, so I'd have to get up and get those delivered in time to go to church. So occasionally my mom would help me. She'd load up newspapers in her car and take me around, and I'd throw them like that. So that was nice when that happened. But I have so many good memories with those newspaper routes. I guess I connected good memories because it was a typical boy's childhood. I mean, growing up, doing that every day, dealing with people. You'd go up and down the same streets day after day, throwing those newspapers. Most of the time, not getting them, not hitting things that you weren't supposed to hit. Most of the time, landing them in the yard safely. I'd have people that would pay me to put their newspaper on the porches, so I'd have to get up and walk up and drop the paper on the porch. But I met a lot of nice people doing that. And then there was the collecting portion. The newspaper at that time was $3.50 for a daily newspaper for a month, and $1.25 for weekend only. Um, so I just remember collecting that money every month. A few people would send in their money, but most of the time you had to go knock on doors to get that. And so by the 20th of the month, you were supposed to start collecting for that month, and your bill was due and payable by the 5th. So you had a couple weeks there to collect your money, pay the newspaper, and then whatever you collected extra was yours. The bad part about that was if anyone stiffed you, you had to basically absorb that cost. So that's where I first realized that not all people were very nice, because they tell you to come back a few times after trying to collect the money, and they just wouldn't pay you. So I just remember at that point being really disappointed with people who wouldn't pay their bill. And I have to say that my grandma helped me an awful lot. She was an excellent bookkeeper, and she had a home daycare based out of the same house. So she helped me manage the books. So every month I'd get together a little spiral notebook, a little small one. She'd have me write the customer's last name, their address, the amount they owed, and the amount paid, or the date paid. So I had to make little columns with a ruler, and every time they'd pay, I'd mark down. So that was excellent, because basically what everyone else did during that time, or most people, is you had a receipt book, and you just tore off the receipt and gave it to the customer. But I learned quickly that those receipts would get accidentally damaged or torn out. So her method was really good. It took a little bit of time at the beginning of the month when you're getting everything ready, but it ended up being a really good idea. So every month she'd do that. She would have me do that. She also taught me how to tithe, although that was hard to do sometimes. But I mean, $50 a month, I guess I only tithe like $5 or something. But I guess the idea, she was trying to teach me to give back to God the first part of my earnings. So that was a good thing, a good example that she led. Eventually, the newspaper went to Saturday and Sunday morning delivery. So you'd get up on Saturdays and go get it, and Sundays and do it. But that was actually better in a way, because Saturdays before that, I'd have to stop whatever I was doing, go back to my grandma's house and do newspapers for a couple hours. But those are really good memories. I remember they had a carrier of the month thing, so every month if you got less than, I think you had to get 3 new starts, new customers, you could get no complaints. But if you did that for 30 days consecutively, you were what they called an honor carrier. And there were prizes. So if you were an honor carrier for 3 consecutive months, you got to choose from a little catalog of awards they had. So they had things in there you could buy, and you could save up your points. So I always remember around 4th of July, you'd get a little catalog of fireworks that the Bakersfield, California would sell to you for your points. So you could always use your points to buy fireworks. They had all sorts of other things too that I remember buying. And I had a lot of those little certificates, because after 5 years, you'd get them on a monthly basis, and got quite a few of those certificates built up somewhere. They're gone now, long gone, but I wish I would have kept at least one of them. I remember when it rained, it was kind of rough. First you had to put the bags on, which made the papers very slippery in your bag, so you'd stick them in your bag, and they were harder to manage, harder to deal with. But I remember my grandpa, he went and got me a poncho, which was just basically a big piece of plastic sheeting that you put over your head, and newspapers to keep everything dry. So I must have looked really strange riding my bike with this poncho on with these newspapers. I don't think I kept that poncho for very long, because it was easier just to get wet. And then sometimes my mom works, so I don't think she really helped me on those days. Usually you just hope and wait for the rain to clear up before you go out and deliver your newspapers. So that's the way that I would do it. Anyway, it was a great job. I wish there were jobs like that around for young kids because, like I said, I was 11 years old and was able to earn $50 a month, which was really great. Those days I saved up, like I said, after a couple of months, bought a nice bicycle to help me with my deliveries. I could save up for the fancy shoes that the kids at school. I remember getting my first pair of Nikes tennis shoes. Those were the thing in those days. It was great because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get the nice things like that. And I always loved to buy gadgets, so there's always something that I wanted to buy. Just like now, there's always pipes that I want to buy. But it was a great way to make some money as a kid. Did that till I was probably about 16 years old. And then they switched to all morning delivery, and I didn't want to deal with doing that and going to school. So at that point, I gave up my newspaper route and started another job. And I'll have to talk about in the next video. God bless you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me.